Today's edition of NBA Now is sponsored by Mint Mobile. They've got plans starting as low as $15 a month. It runs on the largest 5G network. So if you're trying to save some money amid inflation, Mint Mobile is the perfect choice to make the change over for your cell phone plan provider. We got a jam-packed NBA Now show led by the breaking news that the Kevin Durant trade talks are over because the Nets are not going to trade him, according to their own statement. We'll break down the Kevin Durant news, what that means for Kyrie Irving, and what it means for a potential Donovan Mitchell trade as well. We here at Chat Sports give you all the NBA and NFL coverage you could possibly want. If you want more NBA news and more NFL coverage with NFL Daily Live and ya boy, me, back again tomorrow on Wednesday, hit that big red button and subscribe right now. Let's break down what's going on with Kevin Durant. The trade saga, maybe for now, is dead, and we'll come back to the for now portion later on. The Nets announced publicly earlier today that the two sides have agreed to move forward together this year after Kevin Durant had demanded a trade, and then the firing of head coach Steve Nash or Sean Marks, who was going to stay, and the Nets did not cave, and now they're running it back for at least one more year. Here's the statement from Nets GM Sean Marks earlier today. Steve Nash and I, together with ownership, met with Kevin Durant and Rich Kleiman in Los Angeles yesterday. That is referring to Monday. We have agreed to move forward with our partnership. We are focusing on basketball with one collective goal in mind: build a lasting franchise to bring back a championship to Brooklyn. The too long didn't read that or didn't listen to was no more trade. The Nets never got the offers really, I think, close to what they were remotely hoping for if they were going to move on from one of the top 5, top 10, top whatever current NBA players, if not all-time NBA players in Durant. The Suns were lowballing because they didn't have many assets. The issue that Durant and the Nets ran into is all the places Durant wanted to go to, he wanted to play with their other stars. Well, in order to acquire Kevin Durant, he had to give up a star or more because Durant has been a baller his entire NBA career. This is one of the most dynamic and dangerous players in the association. Last year, only 55 games, almost 30 points per game, 7.4 rebounds per game. For as long and tall as he is, he remains a very dynamic shooter. So for at least one more year, the Nets and KD are going to roll it back, which had kind of been the vibe I'd been getting overall because the offers never came in the way the Nets wanted to. It is, although, I think, a for now situation because if the Nets don't play well this year, what's to stop Durant from trying to get dealt again? So, no trade this year, but what about next year? Will Kevin Durant demand another trade again next season? This is the pinned comment on today's show, so if an ad break comes on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there, type in Y for yes, or type in N for no. I think overall, the Nets, they have talent on this team. Between Irving and Durant, more on Kyrie here in a little bit. You bring in Ben Simmons. You make some, I think, decent back end of the bench moves. TJ Warren, Royce O'Neal. I think that adds talent, adds ability to what the Nets have. I think outside of maybe Boston, given how well they played last year, I'm not sure if you get good Durant and good Irving, which I think is a pretty big if at this point, if there's a better team in the Eastern Conference. Philadelphia, I think, would also be in that conversation. But the Nets should be a 50-plus win team this season. Maybe one of the more unknowns for a team kind of full of unknowns right now, Ben Simmons. I assume he's going to play basketball this year. I don't know that for certain. We know how Ben Simmons has been the past couple years, I guess, for Philadelphia. Didn't play at all last year for Brooklyn. There have been just wild accusations one way or the other about, oh, he's doing this, he's not doing that. The group chat, which I think was fake. Like, it's just kind of chaotic for Ben Simmons. I think he's actually a decent-ish fit in Brooklyn, but they need him to just be on the damn court and shoot the layups when it's wide open. I know there's been shooting concerns. I know there's been the mental health focus issues for Ben Simmons. The Nets, that was the key piece they got back in the James Harden trade. The super team that Brooklyn built almost completely fell apart this year. They're going to give it one more run. They need Ben Simmons to contribute consistently and steadily. Now, speaking of consistent and steadily, that's what Mint Mobile runs on, the largest 5G network. Inflation sucks. It's hurting all of us. If you're trying to save some money, changing your cell phone wireless plan over to Mint Mobile is a fantastic way to go about it. Start saving today at mintmobile.com/chatsports. We'll put that link in the comment section and in the description. Don't just take my word for it. Take my mom's word for it and my sister's word for it too. They've all made the switch over to Mint Mobile, and they love it. You're going to as well. mintmobile.com/chatsports. Let's move now to Kyrie Irving, as this was, I think, kind of already the plan, more or less. But Durant staying means that Kyrie Irving is going to stay as well. There was that report yesterday that the Nets had planned to keep Kyrie Irving this year with KD back in the fold. The Kyrie-KD duo, which should be among the NBA's best when they're playing, is going to give it one more shot together. Any trade offers the Nets got for Kyrie Irving were pretty poor, which is kind of shocking given when he's on the court, Irving is still an elite basketball player. In only 29 games last year, we know the COVID saga that was just pretty crazy to think about still. 27.4 points per game, almost 6 assists per game. The field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, still pretty much on par, a little dip field goal wise, but the numbers weren't that different than what he's done over his past couple campaigns. Money was a factor, by the way, I think, in why there were no good trade offers. Here's what Shams Charania wrote yesterday. Quote, All-Star Kyrie Irving also opted into his $37 million player option, committed to the 2022-23 season in Brooklyn, and sources with knowledge of the situation say he has been working out with teammates and holding constructive dialogue with the organization this offseason. Brooklyn has made it clear to interested teams they plan to keep the 7-time All-Star, according to sources. That had come out before the news today of Kevin Durant. Pretty clear to me the Nets are going to run it back in 2022/2023. So with that in mind, how many games will the Nets win this upcoming season? They, of course, were a pretty big disappointment last year. Brooklyn, they were the 7th seed. They won 44 games. I think they can be a 50-win team. I think I forgot to mention the Miami Heat and Bucks as other top Eastern Conference contenders earlier. Those are certainly in there. I think Brooklyn can be in that conversation. I think they can win 50-plus games if Durant and Irving get their heads on straight. It's a decently sized if. So make your predictions for me. How many games will the Nets win next year? Or this year, I should say. Let's move now to the other big superstar who remains unsigned, not unsigned, but untraded for potentially, Donovan Mitchell. The Knicks and Jazz recently, once again, re-engaged in trade talks on Donovan Mitchell, although, per Shams once again, no real progress on the trade front, although there was an interesting package involved I'll break down momentarily. The Knicks are not willing to overpay from what they want, and the Jazz appear to be in no real rush to make any potential trade. The alleged trade offer, by the way, per The Athletic, was this. The Knicks get Donovan Mitchell, the Jazz get Evan Fournier, do not Google his last name, Obi Toppin, some other unnamed salary filler to make the math actually work, 5 first-round picks, 2 of which were unprotected. I think the initial reporting had just mentioned the 2 first-round picks. It is 2 unprotected, 5 total. A lot of picks in there. Not that many young assets. The Knicks or the Jazz, unsurprisingly, were like, nah, we need more than that in the end. So where will Donovan Mitchell play this year? Those teams who had been linked to Kevin Durant, in the Miami Heat in particular, maybe they could show some more interest in Mitchell now that Durant officially is off the table. I think the Knicks, though, are still the heavy betting favorite, as they should be, if Mitchell does indeed get traded. A Mitchell trade should not be cheap. I mean, we saw what Rudy Gobert went for, and I think I speak for the vast majority of NBA fans, maybe not with the last name Gobert, who think that Mitchell's a better player. I know he's by no means a fantastic defender, but he has always stepped up in the postseason, averaging 28 points per game in the playoffs. I mean, talking about a bucket getter. That is Donovan Mitchell to a T. His last couple years in the NBA have also been super incredible. The reason why the Knicks have been so heavily linked is, well, you know, Mitchell maybe kind of sort of wants to play when it's all said and done over in New York. And I'll make this note too. When was the last time the Knicks had a player of that caliber? Maybe the very brief Linsanity conversation, but, you know, not remotely the same, and I think it'd be a better one than the Carmelo Anthony trade all those years ago. If you have not already, please hit that big red button and subscribe. YouTube.com/ChatSportsTV, your one-stop shop for all things NBA, NFL, and college football right around the corner as well.